right, we're going to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. Present are council members Frazier, Cost, Bubb, Blake, and Marmee. First item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amounts of $11,470.35.
Good evening. This is in reference to one of our grants. This is the Justice Reinvestment Grant. So we're asking for an appropriation in the amount of $11,470.35 into these four personnel accounts. What happened was at the end of 2018, these accounts were short, so the auditor's office moved money from the Probation Improvement and Incentive Grant to cover the expenses, so now we need to reimburse that line item back. So that's why we're here today.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Bubb, second by Frazier. Any questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $7,000.
This $7,000 is the local share for the Coble Park improvements. Now at Capital Improvements, Dave Rhodes is going to speak to the entire grant, which will be this $7,000 plus the check from the Licking County Foundation, which was $5,500. And here are our improvements. We're going to have a new swing set, 2 tables, 2 trash cans, 2 grills, a little bouncy toy that looks like an airplane, a merry-go-round, and a slide.
I'll make a second.
Motion by Bubb, second by Frazier. Any questions and or discussion? Mr. Frazier.
Which park is this? Where is the location?
It's Coble Park in the south end. It's also known as Ohio Street Park. The official name's Coble Park, but it's by Ohio Street.
Any other questions or discussion?
I have one more.
Mr. Frazier.
When is this scheduled to take place? Do we have a date?
Well, yes, we do. This is expedited, so it should go through full council the first Monday in February, and I'll do the PO and we'll order it. It should be, the Parks Department's doing all the install, so we're aiming for the spring.
Any others? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $75,000.
Yeah, this is an appropriation just for some annual vehicle replacement we have in the wastewater department. This would be for three trucks.
Motion.
Motion by Bubb, second by Cost. Any questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation amount of $174,000.
Yeah, this is more vehicle and equipment replacement out of the stormwater funds. These will be for an update, or a new street sweep or sidewalk sweeper. The one we have is over 25 years old, and we have some real maintenance issues with it. Will also be for a vehicle and for some mowing equipment as well. So,
I'll make a motion. Second.
Motion by Frazier, second by Bubb. Any questions and or discussion? Mr. Frazier.
When we say vehicle, is it just a pickup truck, or what are we talking about when we say vehicle?
well, in this case here, it would be the sidewalk sweeper and a pickup truck.
Okay.
In this case, yeah. So we have a schedule. We replace our trucks at about. We keep service vehicles about 10 years, and then we look at replacement because they get to be issues.
Worn down on miles.
Yeah.
And then just to follow up, is this a $14,000 equipment piece, the mower, the $14,000 line item for equipment?
The equipment is for some mowing equipment. It's for
Yeah.
several mowers and a vacuum system that we can use to clean out the bioswales with. It's a small, that's a couple $1,000 item that we're going to get added into this here, but it's for cleaning out the leaves and stuff out of the bioswales, so we don't have to rake them out. Use a sweeper thing, so a yard sweeper type thing.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is the request for appropriation in the amount of $35,500.
Officer Romano is retiring, so this is his sick, vacation, and comp payout.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Frazier, second by Bub. Any questions and or discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, we're replacing Officer Romano. Is that, so he's retiring now, we're gonna get a replacement, is that what the plan is for?
As soon as Chief Connell can find a good candidate and hire them, yes.
Yep, and I imagine we don't have anybody in the backlog to replace, we're just gonna try to find candidates, and then,
He's in the, about to finish up the background process. He has 15 applicants to interview for 7 open positions.
okay. And this is one of the 7?
This would make 7.
Okay.
Currently has 6. As soon as George steps out the door, he'll have 7.
Okay.
Any other questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $44,110. Water Department Fund.
So this is the next piece of it.
Yeah.
So these are the financing for our 2 new positions that were created at the end of the year. Since we do the way we do our budgeting anymore, that position wasn't created, so we didn't put that in the budget because it wasn't created yet. And so now I got to come back and get the money to put in these positions that we've created.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Frazier, second by Bub. Questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. And now we need a disappropriation for the same amount.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Motion by Frazier, second by Bub.
A disappropriation?
This is basically, we have a disappropriation and an appropriation. We have one of each for the same amount. It's the same exact thing. You're moving it from one fund to another, so we have to disappropriate and then reappropriate.
Okay, I didn't think I was doing that. This was
Pardon?
For section 2.
Yeah.
Section 2 is for the sewer portion of that money. That person gets paid out of water and sewer.
Oh,
so
okay.
appropriate
I'm
money for
sorry.
each
Yes,
one of
you're
them.
right. You're right.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
You already did. Okay. That's already seconded. Any questions and or discussions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, miss.
so Roger, so for the total for this person, it's going to be the 88,000, correct?
Correct.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Okay, next on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $61,215 from the Stormwater Utility Fund.
Yeah, this is the same issue, only it's for the 2 positions. We have the for the project engineer and for the environmental systems person's being paid out of stormwater. The engineer's being paid 20% out of stormwater, so this is plenty of money going in for that, and then 60% of the environmental positions being paid out of stormwater. So that's what these funds are for then. So.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Motion by Frazier, second by Bub. Questions and/or discussion? Mr. Frazier.
How did we determine the 20%, 60% breakdown? Was it?
We really just took a look at what the job was and what we're doing. I mean, it's hard to get it exact. I mean,
Yeah.
but we just think that's kind of what the amount of work that's going to happen between the two. That's generally how we break down our projects and stuff. And so that's just how we do it. I mean, you know, it's similar. My position's paid 50% water, 50% sewer. Well, do I really do? I mean, one year maybe this, you know, and so that's just how we break them down. So.
Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. A motion passes 5-0. And the next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $26,107.
And this is just the environmental systems position, and this represents out of the general fund, but the money was paid, there was $22,500 that was paid for by the Special Improvement District to cover this position, so.
Motion. Second.
A motion by Bub, second by Frazier. Questions and/or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. And the, not the last item, but next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $30,000.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Originally, when planning the budget, we thought we would take this amount out of bed tax like we've done last 2 years. And prior to that, it came out to the general fund. With the collections we had at the end of the year, we felt that it'd be better just to take this out of the unappropriated balance of the general fund.
Motion.
Motion by Frazier, second by Cost. Questions and/or discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Blake.
Director Rhodes, is there a, can we get a copy of that agreement that you worked out with them? Because this is also dealing with the new scoreboard down there as well, right?
Actually, yes. We just signed that last week. I'll get you a copy of it. And it's down $10,000 from where it was. And in that agreement that we captured the first $10,000 out of sales off the scoreboard. So essentially, a $10,000 reduction, and then the first $10,000 in income that we'll get off the sales of that scoreboard, which will go to Licking County Foundations for further improvements to that park in that area. That's almost a $20,000 swing.
Then the total cost of the scoreboard was what?
By the time we're done with everything, and when I say everything, that's bearing, cables, things of that nature, $241,000.
And that agreement is progressive towards us as far as a percentage of what they pay us towards sales.
Yeah, I remember
So,
that.
yeah, we should get more back than just that 10,000, but the
That's
first
just-
10,000 is on that.
And I'd like to publicly thank Doug Marmee. Doug's been with me every year since I've been service director, working on these contracts with the Y. And this is one he worked on with me too.
Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. And then we have one more item on the agenda that's going to be actually going to council tonight under Rule 11. And that's a resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to negotiate and enter into contract without competitive bidding to accomplish necessary repairs on the North Fork Sewer Interceptor and declaring an emergency. And Roger's going to speak on this just so we can get the discussion, if we need a discussion on it, even though we're going to vote on it tonight. We won't vote on it in committee.
Yeah, we found out a a week ago, one of the manholes on the North Fork Interceptor was installed in 1979. It runs along the North Fork of the Licking River all the way up to St. Louisville. We discovered in our annual inspection of that one of the manholes had actually fallen into the river. It was actually about 40 feet out in the middle of the river from some severe erosion through this summer. It was about 10 feet in the bank last year when we checked it. This year it's about 40 feet out in the river. So unfortunately what happened was then all the bank run filled in the sewer, so the sewer's plugged at the moment. So we spent about a week moving the river basically so we can get to the manhole to start working on it. We have a bypass set up where we're pumping around that area, so basically nothing's gone right here on this project so far. But what we have to do, we had some smaller equipment in there trying to fix the problem today, and that was not successful. And we're going to get our big vac truck back there. Well, our big vac truck's a pretty big truck. We got to build a road because you can't get to it. It's in the middle of the woods. And so what we're going to start tomorrow then is we got Leighton Excavating hired to build a road for us. It's going to take a half-mile road to get back to where that manhole is, so we can get our jet and vac truck in there to clean that line, clean the gravel out of that line, so we can let the flow go down through there. Today we did get the manhole sealed, so there's no chance of, we've been pumping around it, but so there's no chance of sewage getting into the river. The thing that's really concerning of us, this is obviously it's our drinking water supply out there, so we don't want anything to happen to that, and so unfortunately it plugged up and there's nothing getting out into the river, but so we've got it sealed and we're pumping around it, but we got to build this road to get out to it, and we just can't let it sit there for months. I mean, it's got to be a problem. We can't, and so we got to get going on this thing immediately. While we're working on it. It's not like we're sitting waiting on this, but we need authorization to go.
How far up the river is it?
It's right at the. It would line up directly with the second driveway on the Meadowlands addition, which is the first addition as you go out Horns Hill Road.
Right.
And so there's part of that sewer is actually designed to be in the river, and it's got some big concrete piers and stuff. I think up by your neighborhood there's some that are out in the river.
And it's way out there now.
And it's actually on the other side of the river now.
Yeah.
And that river moves tremendously. I mean, it's unbelievable how far that river moves from year to year, and we obviously didn't expect this to happen. I mean, it was a wet year. There was a lot of rain, and it just where the angle that river came through, it just so it's one of those things. I thought, boy, I hope I'm not here when this happens. And guess what?
Yeah.
So, what's the final fix? Is it go there, seal the manhole?
Well, the manhole's sealed now. So what our plan is right now is get our equipment out there to clean the line, and so we get flow going through it again. Once we get it clean and get the flow going through there, then we're going to abandon that manhole that's sealed out there in the middle of the river and probably put another manhole back, so we'll have to dig that up. That's not part of this here. That'll be another project that we'll do. We don't really need, we need that manhole, but that's not critical at this point in time. The problem is that sewer line is below the river bed. So if you're going to, first thing you say is, well, why don't you just put a new line in and go around it? Well, to do that, we got to be below the river, which means a lot of water, and so you got to set up a big dewatering operation. I mean, we're talking, a huge operation to get that water table down low enough to do that. When they put that, I was not here in '79 when that was put in, but I mean the stories I've heard about it being there. They had huge dewatering operations all the way down through there so they could put that in, and you can tell when we're working around that manhole, there's just infiltration of water. We had 4 or 5 pumps running just to keep enough water out so we can see what we're doing. So we've had some good words for it this week. It's not been fun, and I think we're to a point that we got the manhole sealed, and as long as we don't get flooding, which tomorrow we're expecting some rain, but doesn't look like it's going to get up that high. We'll be okay. I mean, we can pump around we can pump around for a year if we had to, but I mean that's expensive and manpower and everything else. But
so, if I may, this portion here is just the authorization for the work, or
this is the authorization to do the work. We have money in our funds that we're going to transfer to unless it gets too out of control here. But we hope just putting the road in and getting our equipment to there, we're going to be, we think we're hoping now to less than $150,000. Now, there's going to be more money when we got to go back and do something with that manhole, but that's can be planned, and we can engineer that project a little bit better. But we got to get this is just an emergency repair is really what it is. So
This is actually, if it would have been a small project, he has the money to do it, then he can do it. But once it goes over 75,000, they have to have competitive bidding. So this is to waive that competitive bidding because they've already started. They just want to get through with the project, get it taken care of. So that's what this is for. Okay. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Roger, was there, besides the regular inspection that you do annually, I think you said, was there any other indications that there was something wrong within this section of the system? Or?
no, it's just like I said, it's just severe erosion. I mean, like I said, it's in the middle of the woods, so it's hard to get. I mean, you can't hardly get to it is a problem. And typically, if it was out somewhere where people walk by or whatever, they would report it. Just like up in Doug's neighborhood, that you can walk out in this guy's backyard and see the manhole is out there, and that's been reported to us a number of times. Although we know that situation is under control, we have repaired. I think we counted up the other day 6 repairs on the North Fork Interceptor where we've had to do bank reinforcement all up and down that. If you recall, maybe 7, 8, 9 years ago, down along Maple Avenue, we had a sewer fail. The bank eroded, and we fixed that in an emergency situation. But you know, the rivers in high water is a damaging thing, and so. Yeah, so that's just.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Roger? All right, with that, this meeting stands adjourned. Next up is service.
I'll bring the Service Committee meeting to order. I have myself, Mr. Blake, Mr. Lang, Mr. Bubb, and Mr. Marmee filling in for Mr. Rath. We are here to consider resolution number 19-03, approving the renewal application for placement of farmland in an agricultural district and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Chairman, I'll speak to both 1903 and 1906 because they're essentially the same issue. They just involve different parcels of property. These are parcels of property still within the city of Newark that are used exclusively for agricultural purposes. It's simply a renewal of their application or their status as CAUV property with the county auditor's position. Quite honestly, it's about as ministerial a function as this committee will ever see. And additionally, it's listed as an emergency because we have statutory deadlines that we have to meet to respond to the auditor's office so that they can act on the application, the renewal application.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Bubb,
Second.
second by Mr. Lang. Are there any questions from the committee? Any questions from the audience? All those in favor of moving this on to full council signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. 5-0, moves on to full council.
I'll make a motion for resolution 1906.
We have a resolution for motion for 1906. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lang. Again, any questions from the committee? Any questions from the audience? All those in favor of moving 1906 on to full council, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. It moves on 5-0. Thank you very much. That's all for Service Committee.
All right, I'd like to call this Streets Committee meeting to order. Those in attendance are Council Members Hall, Blake, Rebutis, Lang, Marmee, and sitting in for Rath, Frazier. Tonight we are going to discuss the road changes regarding road changes in front of the works at 55 South 1st Street by Marcia Downs, the Executive Director of the Works, and Brian Moorhead, City Engineer.
Brian?
No problem. I want fire ticket in here.
There's no tickets.
Thank you for letting me speak today. In your packet, we have information. There's a site map on the project that will run between Canal and Market Street, First Street, and Second Street. The next thing in your packet is the original drawing from the city engineer's office. Brian Reed and Nick worked on this drawing. We started discussing this last April. The city did a traffic study to determine the speed at which people are coming on Canal Street and also the number of people going the wrong way on a one-way street. What that problem does for us, when we have more than 50,000 guests a year, a lot of them are grandparents and young moms with kids, and they're getting them out of car seats and out of their cars, and a toddler runs across the street while the mom is still trying to be able to get the child out of the street. We have worked to come up with a plan that would make this a safety solution for our section of downtown Newark. I have included in the very back a drawing that was prepared by JVA based on the City of Newark's model. And I also have some illustrations to show you throughout the packet of how this would affect the street. What we're asking for is a way to be able to come down Canal Street going east and turn the road so it heads back to Market Street. School buses will be routed on First Street. We have designated bus parking on First, and students would be coming into that space. We do have currently 14 counties that come to downtown Newark for school field trips. This is a safety issue for them as well. There's designated parking for our handicap buses and cars that would go past the museum, and we would allow a turn-in onto Canal Street for those handicap-accessible buses. We have a minimum of 2 buses a week that come from Columbus Adult Special Education daycare facilities that visit us, and we need to care for them as well. The last thing, when we put the side dome in from June to December, we have had a 10,000 visitor increase in just 6 months. We believe this trend will continue for us. What we've also tried to do with not only the exception of safety, but really the visibility of the works downtown. Right now, if you look down 2nd Street to Canal Market, there's really no visible markers there that we're there. There's a museum there. What we'd like to do is put a glass enclosed building at the corner of 2nd Street to put our steam engine in that was built in downtown Newark in 1882. This would be an enclosed lit artifact. And then the sidewalk would mirror the Canal Market sidewalk and go from 2nd Street to 1st Street, with the exception of the U-turn that's in the middle of the street. We looked at a number of different scenarios that Brian might address, but most of those, we really tried to come up with the simplest solution for safety first and then appearance. We're tying into the Canal Market. We're committed to using the colors of the Canal Market and also the new downtown Newark wayfaring signage. We would implement that signage design in our plan. The sidewalk itself would be a history walk of Newark's role in transportation, starting with early settlers going on to today. And these would be active and sign exhibits to draw your eye down to the east side, going to one of our murals. Some of the things that Brian and I have discussed is the need for a crosswalk on 2nd Street between the Canal Market and the Works parking. Right now we have people who park for the market in our parking lot, which is just fine, but they're walking in the middle of the street to get over to the Canal Market. We would like to see, as part of this plan, a designated crosswalk so people can safely get over to the Canal Market for events and for the market itself. questions for me?
Thank you for bringing such a well-thought-out plan to us. Does anybody have any questions? Yes,
Sure.
Mr. Lang.
Thanks, Marcia. This looks, on paper, looks fantastic. Initial question I had, are you going to lose some parking spaces? with
Yes,
this? How
8
many-
parking places.
8, okay.
And I don't think that's a problem. Once the downtown city construction was finished, we aren't challenged with parking like we were 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So I think we're fine. We ebb and flow based on the time of day.
Sure.
Right now, Robertson Construction is using a lot of our parking to work on the Alfred Building, and we still have parking available. A lot of our guests come by bus.
Any additional questions?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Ryan.
But is there a parking requirement, so many spaces because of the square footage of the building?
Not to my knowledge.
Not a downtown district.
Okay.
Yes, Mr.
Hi, Marcia.
Mark.
When would you target building this, and is it going to be multiple phases, or what would you think about the construction?
Well, if you know me, I like to get it all done pretty quickly. We're looking at September as our start date for this project. If fundraising is completed at that time, which I think it will be.
Yep. And then is the thought, if I may, is the thought to build the U-turn and then build the steam station? Is that what-
Simultaneously.
Simultaneously?
Any further questions? Yes, Mr. Wood.
Mr. Chair, this is probably more for Brian, but I'm just curious about proposed light poles, existing light pole. Well, I'm looking at this sheet here specifically. What's going to happen with the utilities in this area?
I think the existing light pole, I think that design was around the existing lights that are in the center of the parking area, so I don't think those needed to be relocated.
We may add additional light.
Yeah, she talked about adding some additional ones down through the new sidewalk area that would be towards the west half of the block.
Thank you.
Mr. Frazier.
Is this fully funded by the works, or is there any dollars associated with the city?
Well, I'm hoping to get some additional support for things like the crosswalk, and some of the things would be improvements to downtown. Our goal is to fund this project, and we think it's going to come in at about $700,000. That's where it looks right now, but we do not know. We have requested from AEP to move an electric pole, and Mr. Prater said that would be very, very expensive. We don't know what very, very expensive means at this point. But there are 3 poles that run along that alley between Parks Alley, the county commissioner's back of its building, and the works. And we would be looking at putting those underground. So that might blow my whole budget.
Yeah, times 2.
Any additional questions? Any questions from the audience? All right, seeing none.
Well, I'm sorry,
Go ahead,
Mr. Chair. But do we need to vacate like this part of the street, or do we officially need to do that, or?
I don't think we need to vacate it. The street obviously will be closed on a day-to-day basis. The bollards will be installed so that if there was some reason we needed to get through there, the bollards could be removed and we could get through there. But I don't anticipate us vacating that part of the street.
Okay.
But it would essentially be closed to traffic, though.
There's going to be a canopy there now, right?
There is a canopy. You could drive under that canopy.
Okay.
I'd prefer that you didn't, but
One more question. And then Park National Bank is the other property owner that we're talking about, and they're in support of this.
yes. Park National Bank and the Works did a land exchange in December of this year. They currently own the parking places, or they did own the parking places in front of the museum. We own the parking lot at Park 22, and we traded 46 parking spaces, so this now is Works property.
Nice. Planning ahead.
I'm trying. I'm just not sure what the next steps are,
Yeah.
and that's
I'm
why
excited for your next plan after this.
I always have one.
Any additional questions? Discussion? All right, seeing none, that adjourns streets. All right, we'll call this Economic Development Committee to order. Those present is Frazier, Lang, Cost, Hall, and Marmee sitting in for Rath. Today we are talking about resolution number 1907, amending resolution number 81-9 and expanding the boundaries of the community reinvestment area designated as number 1. Today we're going to have Mark Motter speaking to us about the CRA and the changes that are coming. So, Director Motter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did get the map up.
Hey, we have success.
We're here this evening to talk with you all about expanding an existing CRA. It's CRA number 1. It was actually, as you see from the legislation, started out in 1981. So it was 81-9 was the original legislation that established CRA number 1. It was then expanded in 1995 under Resolution 95-75. And then we have revisited that area, and as really at the prompting of some developers who are looking at some project properties that were not in the CRA area number 1 or any other CRA for that matter. And so discussion with myself, Service Director Rhodes, Mayor Hall, and also Mark Labutus, because originally we were looking at Mark's ward area when we first started considering this expansion, because several of those properties that we were approached by the developers on were there. So I just want to recognize Councilman Labutus and thank him for his work and efforts on expanding the CRA area number 1. Again, we appreciate your input and working with us for your area, so thank you very much.
So where is the expansion?
The map that you have behind you on the screen, there's 3 different colors. The green area is the existing CRA area number 1. The orange or brownish shaded areas would be the expansion areas of CRA number 1. And the third color, which is, as we look at as a grayish color, that's actually another CRA number 4. But I thought that would be valuable to show you why we stopped where we did. It's because there's already another CRA for that area. In the upper right-hand corner of the gray area, that's to orient you, would be Owens Corning Fiberglass Case Avenue plant up there. So you can see the existing, you can see the expansion area, and I'm not sure how far you want me to go before you call for a motion.
Just to understand, the green is the current boundary.
Correct.
The orange is the expanded boundary.
Yes.
And the gray is number 4.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And is the direction, is it to support existing projects, new projects? Is that the reason for the...
The reason for the expansion would be to allow property owners who want to invest and do some developing, whether that be new construction, historic renovations, rehabs. That would allow those property owners to be tax abated on the increased assessed property valuation that's done by the Licking County Auditor's Office. So essentially it kind of freezes your tax rate, property tax rate where it is, and then if you do any improvements, that increased value, as the Auditor's Office sees it, will not hit your taxes until the tax abatement period has expired. And by that I mean tax period, it's 12 years, 100% tax abatement for renovations and remodeling. It's a 15-year tax abatement on new construction. What we think this is going to do is it's going to incentivize developers, property owners to improve their properties. And not have to incur an additional tax assessment on their property taxes until that tax abatement period would expire. So it's a nice incentive.
Are homeowners, okay, I'm sorry, Doug.
Yeah, so this is going to be allowed on residential also?
It is, yes. They always have been.
Pardon?
It always has been. All the CRAs include residential.
Right. That's what my concern is expanding it too extensively to residential, because then why does a certain residential area in Newark get abated where other residential areas do not?
Again, we kind of look at the map for a big part of this as the revitalization of downtown has occurred. You look to the north and you see the areas of Elmwood and some other neighborhoods in that area where that's kind of the next logical step for revitalization to take place. And quite often this revitalization, to make it feasible, it really needs some sort of incentives. In this case, it would be a tax abatement.
Mr. Chair. So tell me the metrics on the current CRA and the benefits and the increase on the current CRA that warrants an expansion of the CRA.
Do you want to know what projects were done, Doug? And
I just want to know what the benefits are. Do we not measure the results of this?
Well, we do an annual report of CRAs every year where we inspect all the properties and make sure, number one, they're being maintained. If they're not, then they lose their tax abatement status. I'm not prepared to go into in-depth metrics into CRA number one at this time. I can tell you there's been a good mixture of residential and commercial businesses that have benefited from the CRA.
And I'm all for that, but I'm also looking at the benefit overall of the city of Newark. If we're allowing abatements for just strictly, which includes residential housing, but yet it's limited in a certain geographical area, and just because someone on Neal Avenue is not in there, they don't qualify, but yet someone one street over does.
Well, when we looked at this expansion, you notice it's hard to tell from that representation, but the railroad track that runs along the south end of town, and parts of that railroad track actually are on the Heath and Newark border. We were looking at those areas because along any rail spur there's a potential for development there. To the far west end, which is 36th Street, we have the old armory out there, and we felt that site would be a good potential future development area. And so that's how we reached out, Doug, to the west end part of it. The other part on the north of that new boundary would be West Main Street. And so West Main Street, has a lot of potential for commercial development there. So that's kind of how we came up with those, a north and a west. And then again, we thought it'd be a good idea to extend it to the north because of, again, all the revitalization to downtown. And that's going to be a natural progression of additional revitalization taking place in that direction. And where CRA 4, the gray shaded area, meets the expansion of CRA number 1, it's a vertical line there, which is actually 5th Street, 5th and Main area. There's some properties in there that we think are going to realize the value of that as well.
My question is does a property owner have to request to be in the CRA and approved, or what's the process?
Process is the city pretty much has discretion of how they want to identify these boundaries.
Oh, I'm just talking about a homeowner within the boundaries trying to take advantage of the CRA. Is there an application they have to fill?
Oh, yes. Yeah, there's an application process.
And it goes to the Economic Development Department, they have to approve it, and then they get put into the program.
Correct.
So not everybody's just grandfathered in.
That is correct. They have to submit all their costs that were involved in the project. If there was any building permits that were required, structural, electrical, HVAC, and so on, all the proper permits have to be shown that they were pulled and paid for, and the inspections were done. And typically, a certificate of occupancy has to be present as well to prove that all the final inspections were done on the property. So it's a pretty thorough process. I do the reviews on that as they come through.
what's the significance of the different CRA areas? Are there different rules depending on which one you're in? As I see, we're bumping up against 4 here with 1.
Not that I'm aware of, John.
Do we have a motion? Not Jeremy.
I'm not on the committee, I'm just sitting in.
Motion by Cost,
Second.
second by Hall. And so, just briefly, I have my notes from previous conversations that we have. So, from what is a CRA? It's a direct incentive property tax exemption program. It's given to property owners renovating or constructing new buildings with the exemption up to 100%. Residential remodeling of 2 bedrooms or less, minimum $2,500, 10 years. Remodeling 2 bedroom or more / commercial industrial, minimum $5,000 for 12 years. New construction of all types for 15 years. We have areas 1, 3, 4, and 5 because 2 was discontinued, and that's kind of the boundaries of how the CRA works.
That's correct.
Correct?
Yeah, CRA area number 2 actually expired.
1996.
Yes.
So when are the expiration dates of the current series?
Doug, do you know what caused that expiration, CRA number 2? I don't. Right now, there are no expirations with the CRAs that I'm aware of. The reason that number 2 expired would be something I'd have to research.
Where was it located?
I believe CRA number 2 was just north of CRA number 4, if I'm remembering correctly.
You probably have an old map somewhere.
I don't know if I brought the old map with me, but that's the approximate area. I believe it's just north of CRA number 4.
Any other questions from the committee?
Mr. Chair?
Doug?
I would like to see some metrics as far as the effectiveness of the CRA 1 prior to my voting towards this. I guess just because I've been on this council for a long period of time, there's been some backlash previously about residential housing and things like that getting CRA or getting abatements when other parts of the city do not. So I guess I'd like to see, what kind of improvements have actually been made and what's the return on our investment by giving up those taxes.
Yeah, I think what we're going to find is it's an incentive to encourage redevelopment, revitalization, whether it be rehab of existing property or even new construction. What I could probably do in the way of metrics, Doug, would be to share those reports that are done annually and show you how many properties are involved. And
I want to know how much we've given up in taxes, and I want to know what kind of investments the community have made.
In order to find out what's been given up, that's going to be based upon the assessed value that the auditor's office
Here's where I'm
comes up
coming
with.
from, okay? So you're saying that it's okay to incentivize a certain portion of our city, but yet we should not incentivize other portions of our city. Why shouldn't we? Why don't we just make it available to the entire city?
I think we're trying to encourage that development along particular areas that are ripe for new development and revitalization.
If it's right for it, then you shouldn't need an incentive. Correct?
That'd be one way to look at it, I suppose. It's an economic development tool. It's another tool in the toolbox to try to provide
Right.
incentives and make things economically
And
feasible.
all I want to see is
So-
the return on the investment.
Yeah.
I'm asking, you're saying that it's developing our economy, and I want to see how.
So to move
I
this-
don't know if I can come up with, Doug, every single parcel that's been granted a tax abatement, how I would figure what their taxes were, what they are, and what the reassessed
How are you
value
measuring
would be.
effectiveness of the program?
So Doug, if I may.
Sure.
So, at the end of the day, it's the auditor that has the clear metrics as far as assessed value and property tax that's not retained because of the increase in value, correct?
That is
We have-
correct.
We have a list of all the properties that have been approved for CRA, correct? As part of that
Yes.
annual report.
Yes.
So in order to meet the request, it would be contacting the auditor's office, getting them the list of reports and saying, what is the assessed value? What was the original value that no longer we're paying property tax for? And then we can mirror up on those annual reports in order to say, what is the return on investment and how much money was put into the house? Is that really what you're looking for?
Yeah, I'm looking for
The metrics as
the
far
metrics
as
showing
what is the assessed value
effectiveness.
and what do we not?
If
get?
we're expanding something, then I want to see what the first portion has worked. If I can't see that it has worked, why would I expand upon it?
But as a city that doesn't levy their own property tax, right? I mean, as far as this being an incentive tool, from a city perspective compared to the school district, compared to everybody else, we're not going to be losing out on a lot of money by using this tool, correct?
Right.
And so I think that is just additional details that he's looking for, that we should be able to use those annual reports and the information from the auditor. We can send over a request for that information and we can move this along. And if you get it in time, you can feel good about your vote on council. Does that sound fair?
Sure. Yep, sure does.
Do my best. I promise you that.
No pressure. So,
What I do have, Doug, at my disposal is on those reports, each time a property has come forward to ask for a tax abatement, they are required to show how much they spent, the expenditures on the project. We do have that information in the report. What I don't have on that report is what is the reassessed value after the improvements were done. Just because somebody spent, let's say, $100,000 improving their property, that doesn't always equate that there's $100,000 of new assessed property value.
Exactly.
That's in the hands of the county auditor.
But yet we are reducing the amount of their taxes by the investment portion, so therefore it is, because it's not being reassessed, correct?
We're not reducing their tax base.
We're
It's
abating
remaining the same as what we're doing. And yes, and then we're
Abating
abating
any-
whatever the county reassesses the value at.
Right.
That's the part that I don't have, that I would have to look into with the county auditor's office and see how we would come up with that.
I'm fine with sending this on to council. I do share some of Mr. Marmy's concerns. Could we get information on the expiration dates of the CRAs? I'm curious how long we're putting this into place for. That could just be part of what
I'll
we
look into
hear
that.
at full council.
Mhm.
Thank you.
any other questions from the committee? Go ahead.
How long is this number one, how long has this been taking place?
1981.
1981, Bill, was when it was first implemented for CRA number one. And Bill, that's in your legislation, the preamble. That's where you see 81-9. That's where it was first created. And then down into the body, just about the second paragraph down, it references the second expansion was done in 1995, and that's Resolution 95-75. So this would be the second expansion since it was originated. Okay?
Any questions from the audience? Seeing no more questions, all those in favor of moving this on to full council signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That passes 5-0.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is capital improvement.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of the Capital Improvement Committee to order. Those present are myself, Lang, Fennell, Marmy, and for Rath, Labutus, and Hall. Up first, Resolution 1905, appropriating monies for the municipal corporation. Section 1, an appropriation of the unappropriated balance of 331 Capital Improvements Fund in the amount of $12,500 for upgrades to Cobble Park. Director Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You heard part of this in Finance Committee. The other part of this is $7,000 from our capital improvements, making a total of $12,500.
Any discussion from the committee?
Make a motion.
Motion by Marmee,
Second.
second by Labutus. Any questions from the committee or from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor of sending this on to full council signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That passes 5-0.
Thank you.
So up next for Resolution 1905, Section 2, an appropriation of the unappropriated balance of 331 Capital Improvement Fund in the amount of $22,000 for Ferris Zero Turns. Director Rhodes.
These are for the Parks Department. About every January, I come and ask you for new mowers, and we keep mowers and we keep turning them over, but I'm going to get two, with your approval, I'll get 2 zero turns to help cut the parks.
Any questions from the committee? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Fennell, second by Marmee. Director Rhodes.
Yes.
I think this question comes up a lot when we've got these kind of smaller equipment. Is it capital equipment? Is it, you know?
Yep. Came up with trimmers, I think, last year, Doug. And you accurately pointed out that a trimmer wouldn't be a capital improvement because of the cost of it. And that's exactly why it's not on here.
So we're going, cost is kind of the limit. And do we have a informal policy about the limit for when something's equipment versus, or not really?
We never really did come up with a concrete.
It's kind of been all over the place. I think John Hubel came up with a definition when he was here. We've also used our capitalization policy. I don't think there's anything actually written down. To me, a capital improvement should be at least cost of $5,000 and a useful life of at least 5 years. Just as a guideline, but we're sort of everywhere on that. And I think the capital improvement is whatever this committee says it is.
Fair enough. Okay. Any further questions or discussion from the committee? From the audience? Okay, all those in favor of sending this on to full council signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Passes 5-0. This committee stands adjourned and council stands adjourned. We've got full council coming up at 7 o'clock.